Now, I have the distinct honor of welcoming someone who truly embodies the spirit of entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership. Sri Balagopal sir, as many of us affectionately know him, Balasan. Having Balasan here with us kick off Acsia Next 10 is an incredible privilege for all of us at Acsia. Dear Axians, please join me in welcoming this legend of entrepreneurship with a very big round of applause. Before I hand over the stage, let me share a quote from Balasan's book, The View from Kollam, A Day in the Life of a Sub-Collector. In one chapter, he talks about how he motivated a young village officer to restore a dilapidated office building. So it says like that, all it took was to provoke the young man and look at what followed. Of course, a necessary motivation, a necessary condition is that the person concerned should be capable of being provoked. A thick skin would defeat the exercise at the very outset. Sir, I am proud to say that every Axian here today is capable of rising to the challenge, just as that young officer did. And now it's my honor to pass the stage to you, Balasan, and to inspire and enlighten us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jijimon, for that generous introduction. And thank you all for this opportunity to meet the young team behind one of the fastest growing companies of Kerala and India, and one in which I'm sure all of us are going to be taking a lot of pride watching your progress. So first, let me congratulate you and your team on completing 10 years of very strong growth, during which time you have already earned a reputation in a very demanding field, a very fast-changing field, the automotive field, and where today you number among your customers the leaders in the field. But like Jijimon said, what got you here is not going to take you there. So I'm sure all of you are aware of it. And you got a leadership here who is very, very keenly aware of the challenges which are facing you. So what I was thinking about sharing with you is not about my thoughts about innovation and the need to innovate, etc. Though my organization also, though we were in the brick and mortar manufacturing space, we literally had to innovate to survive. But I'm not going to talk about that, because I see so many young people here, and I am told that most of the young people here are from Kerala. I think what I need to probably tell you is some facts about both this state and this country, which many of us may not be aware of. There has been a lot of reporting in the media about how fast India is growing. But even that might be making some of us think, are we growing fast enough? Look at where China has reached. In 1978, 1980, India and China were level. Our per capita GDPs were the same. Our gross domestic product was the same. And today, look where China is and look where India is. So have we missed the bus? Those are legitimate questions, and those are questions which can be worrying, especially the young people. My time is rapidly, getting over, but you all have a whole lifetime to look forward to, and what is that life going to be like is a legitimate question on which you want answers, and you want hope, and you want inspiration, isn't it? A few days ago, I was appointed chairman of KSIDC. After that news came in the media, many people, some of whom I know, many of whom I don't know, have been giving me a lot of advice about how to develop Kerala. So it is good to know that there are so many knowledgeable people and experts out there with good ideas. Some of them have been sending me information about, some few hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in glass manufacturing technology is coming to Tamil Nadu. Somebody else says some new investments in some other branch of engineering is going to Tamil Nadu. So they're all sending me this to make me feel good, I think. Because now that I'm chairman of KSIDC, all the investment is going to Tamil Nadu. So I sent a reply to some of them saying, so the presumption is that of all this investment is going to Tamil Nadu, the Tamil Nadu Industrial Development Corporation must be doing its work well, isn't it? That must be the presumption. Adinda chairman and managing director, okay, they're doing some very good work. That's why all the investment is flowing there. But actually, that's not how businesses invest. If you look at what is, for example, this dispute between the US and China, and the US, for geopolitical reasons, had decided to disengage from China. So what did they say? They announced a program of reshoring and friend-shoring of manufacturing, isn't it? Take manufacturing away from China. And what are the results after that? Chinese share of global trade has not only not dropped, it has gone up. Chinese exports have gone up, not dropped. Because the presumption was once the US stops buying all these things, somehow China's thing will drop. See, in the case of manufacturing and in the case of all industry, there is what's called the cluster effect. Industry will go where there is industry. Industry is not going to go saying, it is a vacant space, so let me go there and set up. That's not how industry behaves. Because if you go there where there is nobody there, that means there is no supply chain, no skilled people, no roads, no power, nothing. Which fool will go there? So where will people go? They will go where there is industry. Now if you are in engineering industry or you are in automobile sector, where will you go? Where there are automobile industries. You won't go to the opposite end of the country saying, no, because I might lose some manager of mine or something because they might poach me. So let me go and locate the factory in Ladakh or somewhere like that. No. What will they do? They'll go to Chennai, isn't it? Or if it's an IT company, they'll go to Bangalore. Or they'll go to Hyderabad. Or they'll go to some place like that. So this cluster effect works. So what I was trying to give as a reply, Mungur Jamyam, I was saying, see, this cluster effect is why all these industries are going to Tamil Nadu, not because KSIDC is not doing its work. So that was just by way of a light remark. In a recent book, a brilliant economist, Krishnamurthy Venkat Subramaniam, he was the chief economic advisor to the Prime Minister and to the cabinet, to the government of India, till recently. He's a brilliant guy, passed out of IIT, IIM, then he went and got his PhD from US universities. A guy who has been a topper throughout his life, his papers and all, his PhD thesis is considered a classic. So Subramaniam completed his tenure as chief economic advisor and now he's in the International Monetary Fund where he's an executive director. He has written a book about India at 100. That is 2047. Where is India going to be? It's a very interesting book. It's a very provocative book. I'm sure it will be a controversial book. But if you take away all the politics and just look at the numbers which is put there, those are very interesting. And I want to just put some of those numbers for you to think. And I want to very quickly come to Kerala's story from there. $3.75 trillion was the GDP. He assumes that if the economy grows at a compounded annual growth rate of 8%, and if you given inflation moderating to around 5%, and currency depreciation of around 1%. Actually, today, Indian currency for the last few years has been depreciating at 2% per year, but he is assuming 1%. If you do all that, then the nominal GDP of India will grow by 12%. 8 plus 5, 13, minus 1, 12. So, if you calculate using the power of compounding, a 12% growth rate means your principal amount will double in 6 years. So, 3.75 in 2024 will become 7.5 in 2030, will become 15 in 2036, will become 30 in 2042, and will become 60 in 2048, which is 1 year after the 100th anniversary of our. So what he is saying is, the projection, current projection, assuming all these remain roughly the same, because these are projected on the basis of the last 10, 20 years growth. So I thought to myself, and I was thinking about what to say to you guys, I thought to myself, why not I just do some similar wild thinking about where will Kerala be in a few years into the future? Because how many of us think, other than say next year, how many of us think about what this economy is going to look like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? Because how many of us look back to what it was 5 years ago and 10 years ago, and we probably don't see too much change. We don't see too much difference, especially if you've been in a city like Trivandrum, and say, other than this stretch from Chaka to Karakutam, where some new buildings have come up, otherwise it looks pretty much the same, isn't it? So you'll say Kerala economy is something which has not changed all that much. Maybe Mumbai and Chennai and Hyderabad and Bangalore and all have changed, but not Trivandrum. Not. Let's just look at the numbers. In 1990, the gross state domestic product of Kerala was $10.5 billion. Here you have to factor in the fact that I've taken current dollars, I've taken the exchange rate in those years. So it's a little difficult, but we need to validate. But for purpose of argument, you can take these figures. So in 1990, Kerala's gross state domestic product was $10.5 billion. In 2100, 10 years later, it was $17.5 billion. 10 to 17.5. In 2010, it went from $17.5 billion to $57.6 billion. Quite a growth. From 2010 to 2020, it went from $57 billion to $122 billion. And in the last 3 years, from 2020 to 2023, it has gone from $122 billion to $137.8 billion. Almost 2024, it's about $140 billion. So what I did was just projected. If we assume the same rate of growth as the Indian economy, because if you look at from 1990 till today, Kerala has matched the national rate of growth. Though we have a little behind 1 or 2 fast-growing states, by and large, we have matched the national rate of growth. So that's a reasonable assumption. Then, if Kerala's gross state domestic product is $140 billion today, by 2030, it will be $280 billion. double. Okay. Now what does, I'm not going beyond that because to even comprehend those numbers, because 240 will become 580 by 2036 or 2038. Let's forget that. Let's just take 280. What does it mean? From 2024, if the Kerala economy is going to double, what does it mean? It means in the next 6 years, one more Kerala is going to come. So, some people may say, Ishvara, one Kerala is bad enough. Are we going to have one more Kerala? All the non-Keralites across India will be saying, oh God, I hope that doesn't happen. No, but anyway, jokes apart, one more Kerala, okay? Now, even those of you who haven't studied economics, where does economic output come from? Economic output comes from applying the factors of production to produce an output. There are some factors of production. The classical factors of production were land, labor, and capital. There were only 3 classical factors of production. But modern economic growth theory says there are more. And one is technology. That is Sangetika Vidya. You know, the techniques and technology is a very important 4th factor of production. Infrastructure is the 5th factor of production. So, and public services, that is efficiently working public services is the 6th factor of production. So just imagine, all these factors of production have to work together to produce a unit output. To produce one car, or to produce one ton of vegetables, or to produce so much of code, you know, which you ship, which you send across the airwaves to the US or whatever. To produce any output, you need inputs. You need factors of production. So if your output is going to double, then from somewhere you have to increase the input also. Not linearly maybe, because you can use better technology, more productivity, more skilled workers. So these are the areas in which you have to concentrate. But what I just want you to think of for a moment is, if you have one Kerala today, and that's going to double in 6 years' time or 8 years' time, just imagine how much of everything you will need more of. You will need more of housing. You will need more of transport. If you're going to get double the output, it means the freight carried on your highways will double. Are your highways today capable of carrying even today's freight? How is it going to carry double that freight? Do you have the number of vehicles? Do you have the traffic management systems to manage that? Is your railway freight traffic able to cope with this? Is your gas pipelines and your oil pipelines, are they able to cope with this? Are your shipping lines able to cope with this? Is the cable traffic which is carried through the cables, do the cables have the capacity to carry the much higher traffic which is going to be carried? So my point is, there is so much to be done. All that will happen. See, economic growth does not require but a chief minister here or the industry minister, or nobody has to take any decisions. All this will happen. But my point is, this represents a great opportunity for companies like yours, for individuals like you, for young professionals, in terms of the number of jobs that will open up, the number of high-paying jobs that will open up, the opportunities which will come, because all this has to come from somewhere, isn't it? This additional provision of all these factors of production, somebody will have to provide all that. Otherwise, that output is not going to happen. And somebody is providing it today. That is what we mean by supply chains, isn't it? So whenever you hear anybody saying anything negative, whenever you hear, and we have people among us who are the glasses half empty variety. They're not bad people. They're just people who are sometimes constitutionally incapable of knowing that the sun rises in the morning, They only think of the fact that it has a bad habit of setting in the evenings, and they only think about that. So this glass is half full and glass is half empty is, sometimes all of us have moods. There are times when we think positive and there are times when we think negative. But for young people like you, it's very important to remember that you are part of a very good growth story. Today in the global economy, when most of the developed countries of the G7, almost all the G7 countries are slowing down, stagnating, or technically in recession. Recession, the IMF definition for recession is if you have 2 successive quarters of negative growth, that is recession. In that case, all of Western Europe is in recession today. Okay? So, and Canada, and probably Australia, and Japan, and I'm not sure, I think South Korea is very close to that, and all that. So, there is something real big happening out there. In fact, I read some figure that India and China today account for more than 50% of the global growth. GDP growth, more than 50% of global GDP growth is accounted for by just 2 countries. And if you take the BRICS countries account for more than 68% of global growth. So just see what a tectonic shift has happened in the economy in the last 10 years. It has taken everybody by surprise. So people here were at one time what all were dreaming about, not all, sensible people like you are the exceptions, but there were many other youngsters who thought, sell our house and mortgage our property and get a visa and go somewhere to some unheard of university in some unheard of country, that is better than studying here. And many companies which have a business of sending students abroad have become extremely wealthy. They have become very, very successful. So many people have been sent abroad. Now there are stories coming in. Now they are beginning to come in and the media are covering it of all kinds of con jobs. All kinds of scams. Many of our unfortunate people, young people falling for these things, going with bright eyes, There is apparently a university in the UK. See, many people go for studies abroad because you want to study in a diverse student environment. You want diversity, You want to meet people from different cultures. Unfortunately, when they go to that particular college in the UK, they only meet other Indians because Indians are the only ones who go to study in that college. And, and they pay very high fees and all that for that. Now, I think the government, the embassy, Indian embassy is taking it up with the British government and they're beginning to clamp down on these kind of tricksters, etc. But the point is, unfortunately, because we are in a politically polarized state and part of a politically polarized country, even the media plays games, unfortunately. So it suppresses information which you should know, and it exaggerates information which is probably not entirely true. And one of the pieces of information is about Kerala. And what is that? There is a narrative that the young people are all deserting Kerala. I'm sure all of you must have read that. There are so many features which came. Young people ellavarum poovan. Leaving Kerala is going to be left, only old people like me are going to remain here. So it's a bad situation. Who are the young people who are staying here? Because all the rest are seeming, I think, have left this country. But that's not true. Anyway, so when, I have a habit of responding. Whenever I come across such negative news, I respond on social media, in LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. I will write a rebuttal. But I want facts. So I was looking for data. And the next day, I found information in the Times of India, a study done by the government of India on state-wise students leaving India for higher studies. Not for higher studies, for studies abroad. State-wise. They have ranked the states number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That report covered only 8 states. The top 8 states sending students outside India. I searched. I did not find Kerala in that list. So there must be something wrong with that list. Because the way media projects it here in Kerala, Kerala should be on top of the list. But Kerala is not even in that list. So what does it mean? States like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, all industrial, strong states like that, where we feel everything is fine and nothing is okay in Kerala, those are the states sending the maximum number of people abroad. Don't feel sorry that you did not go like your classmates to Canada or to New Zealand or Australia or some godforsaken places like that. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Those are all economies which are slowing down. Those are all economies based on an unsustainable growth model which will have to slow down. It is slowing down. And what is happening now? The economic center of gravity of the world is shifting from the G7 to the BRICS countries. And the share of global GDP which is produced by the BRICS countries is growing. Even without adding to the number of BRICS countries, even if you take the original 4, they are already outproducing the G7. The 5 BRICS countries are already outproducing the G7. So I think you should all feel, for some time my advice to the young people would be is the advantage for all of you working for a company like Acsia and many others which I know of, which are coming up now in Kerala, and I'm having the good fortune of visiting them and talking to people like you, is that you are in a very vibrant ecosystem where some of the negativity which you see outside you can leave it outside at the door when you come inside here, isn't it? At least for 8-10 hours in the day, you're in a very positive environment where you're creative, you're highly productive, you feel appreciated, you feel wanted, etc. That's what I think young people like you should be thankful for and be happy for. And this journey of 10 years, I think I will end with that. Probably we'll have a few minutes for some questions also, or some comments. Many of you may have some comments. I just want to say, Digimon was mentioning to me 10 years, it was a tough journey of 10 years. So I want to tell him my journey, the first 10 years of my company. See, 10 years later, this is where you are, in this fantastic office, in a futuristic building, in one of the best techno parks you can find anywhere in India, not just anywhere in India, anywhere in the world. I have seen a lot of industry parks in many parts of the world. I don't think there are too many to beat the kind of facilities which you can get here. And it's not just appearance. After all, this is business, isn't it? So business means you have to look at money. So it is how cost effective is it? How productive is it? What is the quality of the work coming out? All this your tops. And he has achieved this. You have all achieved this in 10 years. For me, from zero date, when I was coming somewhere near 8.5 years or something, I was still, not cash positive. Sometimes it was like taking a deep breath and then going underwater and then holding breath for a few months and then suddenly coming up and then going down again like that. So I was in that phase after 8 years, and I remember I met a much senior American businessman. His name was Jack Anderson. So Jack Anderson was I think he was a billionaire, very wealthy guy. I just met him at KSIDC one day because KSIDC asked me to just advise him and take him around because he was looking for some investments. So when we were having a coffee, so he asked me, he said, Bala, how's business? I said, it's very tough. And then we kept talking, and then I opened up because I found somebody who was a fatherly looking figure. I was much younger those days. So I started opening up and giving all my sorrows to him and telling him. So he said, so he asked me, he said, Bala, how many years is it since you started your business? So I said, it's 8 years. 8 years later, and this is my situation. I'm still not cash positive. I can barely get my nose above the water level. It is a struggle. He said, Bala, that means you haven't heard of Jack Anderson's 10-year rule. So I said, what is the 10-year rule? He said, it takes 10 years to establish any worthwhile company. So I thought he's saying that to make me feel good. And then after that, in the rest of the conversation, I realized he was serious. So he was telling me it takes time. And he was right, because around the 10th year, things started changing. And after that, it was a different ballgame for us. So your first 10 years, I'm sure, have been difficult, but you've already achieved such a lot. You have created a platform from where I think the next 10 years is going to be very exciting. But you will need to develop, while your engineering skills and technical skills may be adequate, you will have to sometimes change. There is a need for a paradigm shift in your mind. And I will end with the words of a great, an outstanding person from the IT sector. His name is Subroto Bagchi. Subroto Bagchi is also a very dear friend of mine. And Subroto has written a book called The Elephant Catchers. And he talks about scaling. And he says why most companies don't make the transition to scale. They are not successful in making the transition. Because he says, whatever they have learned when they were small, it is like learning how to hunt for deer, how to hunt for rabbits, how to hunt for wild boar, how to hunt for game like that. He said, can you use the same tactics to hunt for elephants? You can't. You can't use the same tactics or the weapons or the tools or the strategies which were successful to catch a deer will not help you to catch an elephant. You will need different tactics. You will need to organize your teams differently. You will need to change your strategic thinking. So many things will have to change. I'm sure all those thought processes, those discussions, all that must be already going on inside you. And I'm not sure I'll be around by the time you complete your next 10 years, but if that happens, I'm sure we'll be looking at one of the world's best technical solutions company and one of the most innovative companies. Thank you all for giving me a patient hearing.
Saying that the speech was truly inspirational. But you were also talking about your company growth, and learned from you that you were finding it hard to breathe in the first 8 years probably. But what is that single thing that kept you still in the game? What was that single inspiration that still kept you in the game?
Okay, that's I think a great question. See, this question applies not only to entrepreneurs. I think it applies to all of us as individuals. There are times in your life when you will face something and you will say, I can't do it. I think if everybody is honest, there must be moments in your life when all of us have felt, I can't, tomorrow I don't know what I'm going to do. All I see is a blank screen in front. No solutions, no ideas, nothing coming. I've tried everything. Tomorrow, what am I going to do? And I'm like that. I was like that. I am still like that. And all of us are like that. We all have situations where, we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, we know all that, but we know that I've tried everything. Now I'm through. Now I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do. Tomorrow I'll just go and say, sorry, sir, I can't do it. And he'll probably ask me to walk off. That's it. So we have been there, all of us. So what sees us through? For being able to make the next step, you need some energy from somewhere. No, none of us are Superman and all that, We all, even if we are very religious people or whatever, we pray hard all night and go and bake 10 coconuts in Padavangadi or go light a candle in the church, whatever we do. Next morning when we wake up, we find the problem is still there. It hasn't gone away miraculously. So what do? The only thing in my view which can, and in my case which helped me, was the sense of purpose which I had, which was bigger than me, which prevented me from saying, I give up. Because there were points in my career when any reasonable logic, any reasonable rational person would have said, that's it, you can't do anything more. Balagopal, you've done your best, you did everything. That's it. It just didn't work. Go and try something else. There are times you'll come to that. So what keeps you going? It is that if you have a sense of purpose which is bigger than you, that is, or let me put it in a little more humorous language, you can't let go. If sense of purpose, it sounds very nice, but I am putting it in some language which we will all understand. I am hanging on to, I have taken on a job which is bigger than what I thought it was. Bad mistake. Probably I made a mistake. But unfortunately now I can't let go. How can I let go? It's like holding a tiger by the tail. You can't let go. So what do? There are many, if entrepreneurs are honest, many of them will tell you what really helped them over some of the most difficult phases is you have to hang on. And the beauty of life is, if you hang on, sometimes the next day, you will learn the wisdom of that old saying, tomorrow is another day. So, it has happened to me so many times. I've reached a stage where everything is closing. All the doors are closing. I think Mr. Panikkar will know exactly as a CFO what I'm going to say. So, all doors closed. You have looked, all your receivables, this, that, everything you have examined, no scope. Tomorrow the bank is going to come and shut you down. And tomorrow what happens when you go there? The bank manager is changed. No, I'm telling you, it happened. You had nothing to do with it. So, see, so you may say, what is the use of this story of Balagopal's? Nala bank manager Mari. So, all I'm trying to tell you is, see, there are, in all of us in our lives, we will come across difficulties which sometimes we can't solve. But the one thing which we have a choice is, we can give up, or we can refuse to give up. But who will refuse to give up? Any sensible, logical person will say, that answer remains the same, whether I tried from this side, I tried from this side, the answer is the same. And if those reasons are not really convincing for me, if it is to make money, that's not a convincing reason. You know that famous story about Steve Jobs, I think all of you know the story. And then Scully, that meeting. So, Scully met this young guy who had not shaved for a few days, and Scully was the highest paid executive in the world, had his private jet. And Jobs offered him a job. And then Scully asked him, why on earth should I even consider your offer? Your company is smaller than my monthly paycheck, my personal paycheck. Your total company is only worth that. So, Job's famous answer was, I'm giving you the chance to change the world instead of selling colored water all your life. So, that was Job's sense of purpose. Jobs felt he was going to change the world. And I'm telling you why that happened. See, that when I met Dr. Valyeta and all, they gave me this crazy idea that I can go out and become a pioneer in the biomedical device field and help establish India's footprint in the global biomedical devices market. So I was just thinking to myself, my God, imagine if I'm able to do that, help India to take the first steps in biomedical device manufacturing. That was enough. So every time I came close to giving up, I used to think, oh God, no, what about that, So let's try one more month. Let's see whether it can go for one. And if you stay in, if you refuse to give up, in fact, among salesmen, those of you who are in business development, one of the most important qualities I have found is not product knowledge, not how good you are at talking. You might be able to talk the legs of a table. It's how persistent you are and how stubborn you are. How many times are you willing to take no for an answer and still go back the next day? So at this stage of life, with all my hair turned white, one of the great lessons which I've learned is those qualities which we value and which we admire in others when we are in school and college are not the qualities which get you success in life. Those qualities which get you success in life are humdrum things like refusal to give up, refusal to take no for an answer, and despite being thrown out of the customer's office, showing up the next day again with a smile on your face, saying, sir, do I have 5 minutes of your time? I have had people like that, and they are worth their weight in gold.